Chapter 490. Gong Shangza didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that the man in front of him seemed to have a strong hostility towards him. Moreover, from the moment this man appeared, he felt an increasingly terrifying sense of oppression. Ningxi continued to introduce to Lu Tingxiao, "Lord Boss, let me introduce you. This is Gong Shangza. This is me." At this moment, Ningxi finally realized that Lu Tingxiao's expression wasn't right, but she didn't know what was wrong. She hesitated and continued. "This is a friend I met in Luo City, a very talented designer." What was going on? Not only was Lu Tingxiao's expression strange, but even Cheng Feng's expression seemed strange. Could it be that she said something wrong? Ningxi immediately changed the topic. "Lord Boss, it's so late, and yet you still came to pick me up. Sorry for troubling you." "It's no trouble. It's on the way." On the way? How could the airport be on the way? Ningxi was speechless when she realized that Lu Tingxiao's gaze was on her shoulder. What now? Lu Tingxiao reached out and naturally took off her jacket, then took off his own jacket and draped it over her shoulder again. "This one is thicker." "Oh, thank you." Ningxi nodded blankly. Lu Tingxiao glanced at her, but in the end, he held back and didn't ask any more questions. He helped her open the car door. "Get in. It's cold outside." Cheng Feng, who was at the side, opened the door to the front passenger seat and assisted. "Mr. Gong, sit here. There's something in the back seat. You might not be able to sit." "Okay." Gong Shangza was also a simple-minded person. He didn't think much and directly sat in the front passenger seat. The car started slowly, and for a moment, no one spoke. Lu Tingxiao quietly looked at the young man in the front passenger seat. He looked clean and handsome, and his age seemed to be about the same as Ningxi's. When he saw the two of them standing together just now, although he didn't want to admit it, they were very compatible. If he wanted to know what their relationship was, it was actually just a question, but no matter what, he couldn't ask. He was a nobody. What right did he have to ask about her private affairs? No matter how slow Ningxi was, she could sense that Lu Tingxiao was in a bad mood tonight, so she didn't dare to speak rashly. Thus, there was a frightening silence in the car, and the atmosphere was strange. At this moment, there was only one sentence echoing in the depths of Cheng Feng's heart. "Second young master, come back quickly. I can't bear it alone." Achoo! Ningxi sneezed again, probably because of the wind outside. Lu Tingxiao pinched his eyebrows and adjusted his emotions. Finally, he was the first to break the silence. "Cheng Feng, increase the temperature of the air conditioner." After that, he took a blanket and covered Ningxi's legs with it. Then he gave her the supper that he had prepared. Ningxi was a little confused by Lu Tingxiao's series of actions. Boss, you're too well prepared. This humble subject is overwhelmed by your favor." "Don't be surprised. You're the hero. You've done well this time." Ningxi took the lunchbox and stole a glance at Lu Tingxiao's expressionless face. "Really? But why do I feel like you're not very happy?" From the moment she saw him, she felt that there was something wrong with him. Lu Tingxiao took a deep breath, trying to control his immature and self-loathing emotions. "I'm not unhappy." "Liar. You're obviously not happy." Ningxi bit her chopsticks and muttered softly. Just as she finished speaking, her peripheral vision inadvertently fell on Gong Shangza, who was sitting in the front passenger seat. Ah, Gong Shangza. She suddenly thought of a possibility that she had never thought about. Boss, he couldn't be jealous, right? Other than acting, she suddenly had other ambitions, and it was all thanks to him. Ningxi thought for a moment and then answered, "It's not sudden. I had this plan before. It just so happened that the endorsement fee for the perfume commercial had been issued. What was even more coincidental was that I happened to bump into a designer that I've been a fan of for a long time while I was shopping. This is simply the will of heaven." She felt that her luck was off the charts. Chapter 492. Ningxi looked at Lu Tingxiao with sparkling eyes. "Amazing. Mr. Boss, I realize that ever since I met you in Xiaobao, my luck has been good. Everything goes smoothly. You two must be my lucky stars. A small lucky star and a big lucky star." Lu Tingxiao couldn't help laughing. "Really?" Cheng Feng burst into tears. Lady Boss was mighty. The boss actually laughed. Because Gong Shangze didn't have a place to stay in the capital, Ningxi found a hotel near Pearl River Imperial View with Lu Tingxiao's company and settled him down. Ningxi stood at the door and waved her hand. Shangze, I'm leaving. Have a good rest tonight. I'll come to see you tomorrow. I'll take you to buy clothes, bags, cell phones, and whatever else you need. We'll see. Gong Shangze looked touched. Actually, it doesn't have to be so troublesome. I just need a place to stay. Ningxi immediately pretended to be unhappy. How can I do that? You're mine now. Gong Shangze's eyes reddened. Thank you, boss. Alas, Gong Shangze's behavior could easily arouse one's desire to protect him. Ningxi's tone softened. Be a good boy. Go to sleep. Walking out of the hotel, Ningxi sighed with emotion. Mr. Boss, now I know how good it feels to be a boss. It's good to be your employee. Lu Tingxiao murmured subconsciously. What? Ningxi didn't hear him clearly. Ahem. Nothing. Have you chosen the address of the studio? Lu Tingxiao asked. Ningxi scratched her head. Not yet. It's not a small matter. I have to think about it. Tell me your requirements and budget. I'll list a few suitable addresses for you, Lu Tingxiao said. Ningxi felt sorry for him. What? That's not good, is it? Sorry to trouble you. Lu Tingxiao was a busy man. How could she trouble him for such a small matter? Lu Tingxiao glanced at her and said unhurriedly, It's no trouble at all. You're mine. Ningxi coughed and coughed. Okay, Demon King, you win. The car soon arrived at Pearl River Imperial View. Ningxi was about to say goodbye to Lu Tingxiao and get off the car when Lu Tingxiao's phone rang. Lu Tingxiao gestured to Ningxi to wait for a moment and answered the call. I'm still outside. What? When did that happen? All right, I'll be right back. Hearing Lu Tingxiao's tone, Ningxi immediately asked uneasily, What's wrong? Lu Tingxiao's expression remained the same. He patted her head and said, It's fine. Go back and rest. Ningxi did not get out of the car. She remained motionless, staring at him fixedly. Lu Tingxiao laughed. I'm really fine. There's a small problem at the company. I'll go and take a look. I'm not lying to you. Hurry up and go. Ningxi still didn't move. Instead, her gaze became even sharper. Did something happen to Xiaobao? Lu Tingxiao looked a little surprised, as if he hadn't expected her to guess it. Seeing Lu Tingxiao's expression, Ningxi knew she was right. In fact, she didn't know why she was so sure, but she just had a hunch. What's wrong with Xiaobao? For a moment, Ningxi's heart was in her throat. Lu Tingxiao comforted her softly. It's just a small problem. He just has a slight fever. You know, it's normal for children to have a fever. The doctor has already gone there. I'll go back and have a look. It's not a big problem. Although Lu Tingxiao said it casually, Ningxi didn't feel reassured at all. She held her heart, which was beating faster and faster, and had an inexplicable premonition. Chapter 493. Although Lu Tingxiao said it casually, Ningxi was not at ease at all. She covered her chest, which was beating faster and faster, and had an ominous premonition. Lu Tingxiao, take me with you. I won't embarrass you. I won't go in. I'll wait outside. If there's nothing, I'll come back. Otherwise, even if you let me go back now, I won't be able to fall asleep. Looking at the girl's firm attitude, Lu Tingxiao still didn't give in. It seemed that there was something difficult for him to say. Can I? Ningxi took Lu Tingxiao's cuff and shook her head almost imploringly. Lu Tingxiao pinched between his eyebrows, and his face gradually became serious. Finally, he looked at her, deliberated for a long time, and finally said, Well, Ningxi, listen to me. Xiaobao has more than a fever. It may be a little serious. I can take you there, but don't be too excited. As soon as Lu Tingxiao's voice fell, Ningxi's tears fell uncontrollably. Xiaobao is very serious? What the hell is going on? Why did it become so serious when it was fine? Didn't you say it's just a fever? Why is the fever so serious? You said you didn't lie to me, but you still lied to me. Are you lying to me about something else? Lu Tingxiao didn't expect Ningxi's tears to fall so suddenly. For a moment, he was completely out of his wits. He told Cheng Feng to drive to the old house immediately and hurriedly took out a tissue to wipe the girl's tears. he said helplessly. I didn't dare to take you there because I was afraid that you would be like this. Look, you're already like this before we go there. What will you do when you see Xiaobao later? Woo 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 woo. Ningxi cried even more fiercely. She couldn't even speak clearly. No one knew what she was saying. Lu Tingxiao's heart was almost broken by her crying, but he didn't know how to coax her. He could only hold her in his arms and caress her back as she cried. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have told you. Unexpectedly, Ningxi's reaction was even bigger than he had expected. It was terrible. In front, Cheng Feng, who was driving, was also shocked to the point that it was indescribable. Not only was he shocked that Ningxi, who had a carefree and tomboyish personality, would actually have such a weak side, but he was even more shocked that the boss actually had such a gentle side. Today, he had broken too many records in his understanding of the world. What surprised him the most was the feeling between the two of them. They really seemed like a couple worried about their precious son. It did not feel out of place at all. Ningxi was so regretful now. Why didn't she just see Xiaobao in a hurry when she sent Lu Tingxiao to the old house last time? Why didn't she care more about Xiaobao? Why did he not dare to have too much contact with Xiaobao just because he had misgivings about his parents' attitude? Why not be a little more thick-skinned? After crying for a long time, Ningxi finally calmed down a little. Lu Tingxiao, don't hide it from me. I want to know. Lu Tingxiao, then promise not to cry. Ningxi, I can't promise. Lu Tingxiao held his forehead. In the end, he could only compromise. He tried to explain in a euphemistic tone. Actually, it's an old problem. Since Xiaobao's accident, he will have a relapse every once in a while. The symptom is a high fever. But what's different from a normal fever is that the high fever doesn't stop. No matter what we do, the fever can't be reduced. Chapter 494. Ningxi's face was full of fear. How could this be? Lu Tingxiao hurriedly comforted her. Xiaobao hasn't had an attack for more than half a year since the last time this happened. This time, it might just be a normal fever. Don't be too nervous. Ningxi knew that it was definitely not as simple as a normal fever. Otherwise, Lu Tingxiao's tone wouldn't have been like that just now. Cheng Feng, stop the car. Ningxi suddenly shouted at Cheng Feng, who was driving in front of her. Cheng Feng knew that even if he didn't listen to the boss, he must listen to the boss's wife. Thus, he subconsciously stopped the car by the roadside. Miss Ning, what's wrong? Ningxi didn't speak. She opened the door of the back seat and got out of the car. Then she walked to the front and opened the door of the driver's seat. You get out and sit in the back. Cheng Feng was dumbfounded. However, Ningxi couldn't wait any longer. She directly grabbed the back of his collar and stuffed him into the back seat. Then she sat in the driver's seat and stepped on the accelerator. With a sound of the engine, the car rushed out like an arrow leaving the bow. Cheng Feng didn't react in time. He was so scared that he almost had a heart attack. He quickly grabbed the handrail of the roof and looked at the girl in the driver's seat in horror. Just a second ago, she was a weak and crying bunny. How did she suddenly turn into a cold and solemn racing queen? Can't you give me a little buffer? Lu Tingxiao glanced at his wife, who was racing. He wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Forget it. Let's race. It's good to let her vent. The car kept overtaking, drifting, and making sharp turns. Cheng Feng was about to vomit. He looked at the boss beside him with a pleading expression, hoping that he could persuade him, who knew that he would see the doting and indulgent eyes of the boss. A moment later, they arrived at the gate of the old house. The car still maintained a speed of 400 kilometers per hour. Seeing that the car was about to hit the gate, Cheng Feng closed his eyes in agony. The next second, Ningxi slammed on the brakes. The car steadily stopped half a meter in front of the gate of the old house. As soon as the car stopped, Ningxi immediately turned her head and urged, Lu Tingxiao, go. Okay, wait for me here. Lu Tingxiao got out of the car and quickly walked towards the brightly lit house. In the back seat, Cheng Feng almost climbed out. As soon as he got out, he supported himself against a big tree and vomited. In the living room, all the servants were trembling with fear. Lu Chongshan's face was full of anxiety and Rui's eyes were already swollen from crying. Yin Rui was relieved to see Lu Tingxiao return. She hurried over to him. Tingxiao, you're finally back. Eat quickly. Go and see Xiao Bao. Lu Tingxiao walked straight into Xiao Bao's room and saw that the little fellow on the bed was as pale as a sheet. His lips were chapped, and his little body was twitching non-stop. He was surrounded by doctors, and everyone's expression was one of panic. Lu Tingxiao's face instantly darkened. Xiao Bao's condition was more serious than he had imagined. Shout, Yiting. Yin. Lu Yin said. Yin Rui's gaze was a little evasive. We were not sure either. Xiao Bao hasn't been feeling well since the afternoon. We got the doctor to take a look, and he said that it's just a low fever and nothing serious. Who knew that in the middle of the night, his fever would suddenly rise to almost 40 degrees Celsius and his body would start convulsing. It's exactly the same as before. Chapter 495. Have you used medicine? Lu Tingxiao asked. Qin Mufeng, who was cooling Xiao Bao down with alcohol, wiped the sweat off his forehead and straightened up. With a grave expression, he said, Yes, just like before, it was effective on the spot, but the temperature rose again very quickly. Xiao Bao's body is too weak, and it's not suitable for such frequent and high-intensity medication. We can't use sedatives anymore either, or we'll suffer the consequences. Looking at her precious grandson, who was trembling and convulsing on the bed, Yin Rui's tears fell like rain. But we can't just watch Xiao Bao continue to have a fever like this. Aren't all of you doctors very good? Why can't you even cure a small cold and fever? Qin Mufeng said with a headache, There are many things that can't be explained by medicine. We've already done countless examinations on Xiao Bao, and there are no other diseases in his body. If there are no diseases, the doctors can't do anything about it. How can Xiao Bao not be sick when he's this sick? It's obviously because your medical skills aren't good enough. Yin Rui obviously couldn't bear to listen to any explanation. Lu Chongshan held his wife's shoulder and said in a low voice, Rui, calm down. How can I calm down when Xiao Bao is like this? You should have listened to me and invited someone to exorcise the evil. These doctors are of no use at all. The more I look at Xiao Bao's condition, the more I think he's possessed or lost his soul. Yin Rui said agitatedly. Lu Chongshan's expression changed when he heard that, and he angrily rebuked. What do you mean by possessed? What nonsense are you talking about? Xiao Bao is on holiday today, and he didn't go to school or go out. He's been staying at home all this time. What kind of evil could he have encountered? Yin Rui still didn't give up. Then explain to me, what's the reason? I'd rather believe it than not. Lu Chongshan's face darkened, and he couldn't help but remind her, when Xiao Bao's illness flared up the last time. I listened to you and invited some witch to summon his soul. In the end, Xiao Bao's condition worsened, and he almost. You're actually thinking about all that nonsense now. Are you trying to kill Xiao Bao? Then let's invite Master Xianjing. Do you think Master Xianjing is a charlatan that you can invite whenever you want? It's not like you don't know that he never interferes in such matters. Then tell me what we should do. While the two elders were arguing, Qin Mufeng pulled Lu Tingxiao to a corner and said in a low voice, Actually, I think it's a psychological reason. I'll tell you a secret. There's a reason why your Xiao Bao suddenly became like this. They're just afraid that you'll get angry, so they didn't dare to tell you. Haven't your parents been busy helping you with matchmaking? Today, old madam of the Zhuang clan came to visit you. She brought along her eldest daughter, Zhuang Ku-er. Xiao Bao must have bumped into her by accident. Xiao Bao must have been provoked. Lu Tingxiao's face instantly turned extremely cold. However, the two of them were his closest relatives, and this matter was not directly caused by them. Now that the two of them were so frightened that they could not hold on any longer and could fall ill at any time, he could not say anything harsh to them. Xiao Bao is more important. Don't worry too much. Ask Ningxi to come and have a try. Qin Mufeng gave his final opinion. Lu Tingxiao pinched the space between his eyebrows and sounded a little irritated. I'm afraid that when she comes, there will be two sick people. Just hearing him talk about it was already unbearable. If she were to really see Xiao Bao like this, how sad would she feel? Chapter 496. Qin Mufeng rubbed his nose at the roar. But there's no better way now. Sigh. Actually, it was very difficult for him to suggest this method. It was very difficult for him to say it out loud, and he had gone through an intense mental struggle, okay? As a psychiatrist in the end, he still had to rely on a layman like Ningxi. It was really embarrassing. Seeing that Xiao Bao's condition was getting worse, Yin Ruri was about to faint from crying, and Lu Chongshan was also swaying, almost unable to hold on any longer. Lu Tingxiao cursed under his breath, but in the end, he still dialed Ningxi's number. Xiaoxi. Lu Tingxiao. How is Xiao Bao? Is he all right? Is he all right? Ningxi couldn't wait to ask in one breath. Lu Tingxiao found it difficult to speak. You. Come in. Wait, I'll pick you up outside. After hanging up, Lu Tingxiao immediately walked out the door. Yin Ruri saw that Lu Tingxiao was actually walking out and became anxious. Tingxiao, Xiao Bao is already like this. Where are you going? Lu Tingxiao didn't reply. He strode out without looking back. At the entrance of the courtyard, Ningxi had already gotten out of the car and was currently standing outside the gate, pacing back and forth, looking into the courtyard from time to time, anxiously. In the next second, she finally saw Lu Tingxiao's figure. Lu. Before Ningxi could speak, Lu Tingxiao opened the courtyard door, and without saying a word, he pulled her hand and walked into the courtyard. Ningxi looked at Lu Tingxiao's tightly clenched hand and inexplicably knew what was going on inside. Xiao Bao's condition was probably more serious than she had imagined. An unprecedented fear began to seep from the soles of her feet to the bottom of her heart. At this moment, Xiao Bao's room was in chaos. At this moment, footsteps suddenly came from behind. Everyone turned around subconsciously and saw the girl next to Lu Tingxiao holding hands. Lu Chongshan's expression instantly changed. Why did you bring this woman here? Do you think Xiao Bao's condition is not serious enough? To Lu Chongshan, Ningxi was probably an existence even more despicable than the witch. Although Yin Ruri's attitude was somewhat displeased, it wasn't as intense as Lu Chongshan's. Right now, she was completely at a loss. Lu Chongshan panted heavily and roared, "Get her out of here right now!" Lu Tingxiao squeezed Ningxi's hand and was about to speak, but Ningxi suddenly shook her head at him and broke free from his hand. Contrary to Lu Tingxiao's expectation, Ningxi would collapse on the spot. To his surprise, Ningxi's expression was extremely calm when she saw Xiao Bao lying on the bed. She didn't even care about Lu Chongshan's roar and rebuke. Chapter 497. When he saw this audacious woman ceaselessly disregard his warnings and actually dared to touch little Bao with her filthy hands, Lu Chongshan was simply infuriated to the limit, and he was just about to berate her furiously when he suddenly went silent for some unknown reason. Although little Baozi was already in a daze from the fever, after being hugged by Ningxi, it was as if he subconsciously knew who was hugging him. He immediately used his warm little hands to tightly grip the corner of Ningxi's clothes and rubbed his burning little face against Ningxi's chest. Ningxi forced herself to calm down. Because of Xiao Bao's subconscious action of getting close to her, her pretense broke down instantly. Because there were too many people at the scene, she managed to hold back, but her eyes were a little red. At this moment, Ningxi didn't care about all the eyes around her at all, whether it was the doctors or the old man and the old lady who were glaring at her. All she could see was the weak and uncomfortable Xiao Bao in her arms. Ningxi hugged Xiao Bao tighter, leaned over and kissed his forehead, and then kissed his little face. She said in a very gentle voice, "Baby, I'm here. Don't be afraid." That voice seemed to have a special ability to calm people's hearts. Not only Xiao Bao, but also the other people at the scene felt that the heat and panic in their hearts were dispelled. Lu Chongshan still stood there blankly, forgetting to be angry for a moment. Xiao Bao curled up in Ningxi's arms with great attachment. Although his little body was still trembling, the look on his little face was obviously not as painful as before, as if he had been tortured by a nightmare. Instead, he looked at ease and contented. Ningxi adjusted her posture, stood up, and let Xiao Bao's little head rest on her shoulder. Lu Tingxiao helped Ningxi adjust Xiao Bao to a comfortable position, then picked up the small blanket on the bed and covered his son with it. Then, Ningxi began to walk around the room. As she walked, She hummed in an extremely soft voice, "Sleep, sleep, my dear baby. Mother's hands gently shake you. Sleep, sleep, my dear baby. Mother's arms always protect you. Sleep, sleep, my dear baby. Mother loves you. Mother likes you." This woman, she actually dared to claim to be Xiaobao's mother. So shameless. Lu Chongshan should have been furious, but for some reason, when he saw the girl carrying Xiaobao while humming a song to coax him to sleep, the anger in his heart actually didn't erupt. Instead, he had a feeling that he didn't want to disturb them. The other doctors and servants, especially the women, could not help but tear up when they saw the little bun's head resting on the girl's shoulder with a look of love on his face. Sigh, the young master is really pitiful. He didn't have a mother's love since he was young. In fact, at this time, a hug, a kiss, or a gentle lullaby from his mother would be more effective than any elixir, right? They even thought that it would be great if this girl was really the young master's mother. The one with the strangest expression was Yin Rui. She looked at her precious grandson, who was leaning on Ningxi's shoulder and was gradually calming down. In fact, his body was no longer trembling or convulsing. She inexplicably recalled Master Xianjing's words that day, "Unparalleled fortune, unparalleled fortune." Chapter 498. Ningxi was not a doctor, so she didn't know how to treat him. She was just comforting Xiao Baozi based on her instinct. In addition, there was a trace of telepathy that even she herself found hard to understand. If Xiao Baozi moved a little, groaned, frowned, or breathed at a wrong frequency, she would naturally know what was wrong with him. She would change her posture, ask Lu Tingxiao to cover Xiao Baozi with a blanket, or whisper in Xiao Baozi's ear to tell him that she was always here. Before Ningxi came, little Bun had been lying on the bed restlessly. No matter how many people were taking care of him and surrounding him, he couldn't calm down. Now that he was in Ningxi's arms and his little head was resting on her shoulder, he looked incomparably at ease and comfortable. He even gradually fell into a deep and sweet sleep. The doctors and servants looked at each other and all breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, they were all quiet and didn't dare to make a sound, for fear of waking up the little fellow again. If something really happened to the little prince tonight, all the people in the house would be finished. The most serious thing about Xiao Bao's condition was not the fever, but his emotions made his body extremely weak. He was still in a high state of tension and couldn't sleep, so how could he get better? Ningxi's arrival undoubtedly solved the most critical problem at present. Ningxi had been comforting Xiao Baozi for a long time. Lu Tingxiao noticed that she was moving her arm uncomfortably. How could her arm not be sore after such a long time? Lu Tingxiao made Xiao Bao's small bed and motioned for Ningxi to carry Xiao Bao to the bed to sleep. Ningxi looked at Xiao Bao in her arms and saw that the little fellow's breathing was stable. He was completely asleep, so she slowly walked to the bed, bent down and carefully put Xiao Bao on the bed. Seeing this, Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui finally calmed down. However, just as Ningxi put the little bun on the bed, the little fellow's originally sweet and peaceful little face immediately frowned and his body began to tremble slightly. Seeing that Xiao Bao was about to fall ill again, the two elders were frightened. Before they could calm down, their hearts were in their throats again. Ningxi was naturally the first to notice it. She immediately carried Xiao Bao back and coaxed him again. Although she looked a little helpless, she didn't show the slightest impatience. Although Lu Tingxiao was worried about his son, his heart also ached for his wife. He immediately walked over and helped Ningxi sit down on the bed. "What's wrong?" Holding Xiao Bao in her arms, Ningxi cast a suspicious look at him. The next second, her eyes widened in shock. Lu Tingxiao squatted down and actually helped her take off her shoes. Of course, those who were more surprised than Ningxi were the other people standing quietly in the corner of the room and the Demon King's parents. Only Qin Mu touched his nose and looked at Xiao Bao, and said in an indifferent tone. After helping Ningxi take off her shoes, Lu Tingxiao gently put her legs on the bed, put two soft pillows behind her, let her lean against the headboard, adjusted her into a comfortable position, and then covered her with the quilt. He looked serious and said in an irrefutable tone, "You sleep for a while. I came here as soon as I got off the plane and haven't had a rest. Oh. Ningxi placed Little Bun on her lap and hugged him. Leaning against the soft pillow on her back, she felt much more comfortable. Chapter 499. Oh. Ningxi placed Little Bun on her lap and leaned against the soft pillow. Indeed, it was much more comfortable. However, she couldn't stand all the heated gazes around her. Lu Tingxiao waved his hand coldly. Everyone immediately recovered from their shock and retreated while trembling with fear. They could only guess in their hearts what was the background of this woman that eldest young master had brought back. Not only did she coax young master the moment she arrived, she even made young master, who had never been close to women, treat her with such gentleness. Could it be? Could it be that this woman is our young master's biological mother? One of the young maids had a look of sudden realization. That's not possible, right? Didn't they say that young master's biological mother died a long time ago? Otherwise, which woman would be so heartless as to abandon her own flesh and blood? And it's such an outstanding man like our young master. Perhaps there's something that she can't say? Are the few of you tired of living? How dare you talk about such things? If old master and old madam find out, you'll be chased out. A servant with a higher status berated them. Instantly, everyone fell silent. In the Lu family, the topic of young master's mother had always been a taboo. Inside the room, Ningxi was indeed a little tired after the long journey and the fright she had suffered because of Little Bun. However, the two big shots, Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui, were still in the room. It was already uncomfortable for her to be lying on the bed while they were standing, not to mention sleeping in front of them. Dad, Mom, you guys should go rest too. I'll be watching over here. Lu Tingxiao said to the two of them. Lu Chongshan looked at his precious grandson, who was in Ningxi's arms and was completely asleep. He looked extremely conflicted. He frowned and was about to speak when Yin Rui pulled him. We'll go out first. Tell us immediately if anything happens to Little Bun. In the living room, Lu Chongshan looked displeased when he was pulled out. Why did you pull me? Yin Rui looked as though she wanted to say something. Chongshan, don't you think that girl is very special? What's so special about her? She's just good at coaxing people. Otherwise, why would Xiaobao and Tingxiao be so infatuated with her? What made Lu Chongshan the most frustrated was that he could only watch helplessly as his son and grandson were completely controlled by that woman, and he couldn't do anything about it. Xiaobao was in so much pain before, but he's fine now that she's here. Do you think coaxing him will work? Yin Rui showed an expression of disapproval. Lu Chongshan knew that he was biased, but he would never admit it. He said in a muffled voice, Then why do you think it is? Yin Rui probed, Maybe. This girl has a good fate and good fortune, so she can protect our little treasure. Upon hearing this, Lu Chongshan's face darkened. What nonsense are you talking about? How am I talking nonsense? This is what Master Xianjing said personally. Yin Rui blurted out in agitation. What did you say? Why would Master Xianjing say such a thing? Lu Chongshan immediately questioned with a serious expression. Yin Rui's eyes flickered, and she said helplessly, To tell you the truth, when I went to ask Master Xianjing to test my horoscope, I also brought this girl's horoscope. Chapter 500. You. Lu Chongshan was enraged. Why did you bring that woman's horoscope over for no reason? Do you want her to marry into the family? Yin Rui shrunk her shoulders and said casually, How is that possible? I was just worried that this woman would harm our Tingxiao and Xiaobao, so I wanted to let Master test it, okay? Lu Chongshan was still a little curious. After sulking for a while, he glanced at her and asked, What was the result? Yin Rui's expression was a little agitated. She recalled and said, In the end, we chose so many girls, but none of them were outstanding. Master Xianjing said that her birth chart was unparalleled luck, bringing prosperity to her husband and family, and having many children would bring many blessings. Even though Lu Chongshan was already mentally prepared, he was still shocked when he heard this. How is that possible? Master Xianjing really said that himself? Why would I lie to you? These were Master Xianjing's original words, word for word. Master Xianjing also said that this girl's horoscope is very compatible with our Tingxiao's. I didn't believe it at first, but I was afraid that you would blame me, so I didn't tell you. It wasn't until Xiaobao's matter today that I thought about it again. All of us tried everything, but it was useless. But as soon as this girl came, our Xiaobao's illness immediately recovered. No matter how much Xiaobao likes this girl, it can't have such a big impact. Yin Rui analyzed bit by bit. Lu Chongshan paced back and forth in the living room with a solemn expression. After a while, he finally made a decision and said in a low voice, "The horoscope is just a formality. How can it be completely true? Don't mention this again in the future. Besides, it's still unknown whether Xiaobao is well or not. What if he... How can you curse your own grandson like that?" Yin Rui immediately scolded her husband in dissatisfaction. "I'm just worried about Xiaobao." Lu Chongshan also realized that he had said something wrong and looked embarrassed. Lu Chongshan thought about Yin Rui's words and hesitated for a while. In the end, he stared at his wife seriously and said sternly, "The 8 characters are illusory, but a person's character can be reflected in all aspects. Don't forget how Xiaobao became like this 2 years ago. It was because we trusted that kind of person." In fact, Yin Rui also knew that even if Lu Chongshan knew what Master Xianjing said that day, his attitude might not change much. After hearing this, her face turned slightly pale, and she nodded. "I was just saying. Of course, I will be careful." In Xiao Bao's room, after Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui left, Ningxi immediately felt sleepy, but because she was worried about Little Bun, she didn't dare to sleep. Lu Tingxiao sat on the edge of the bed and adjusted the quilt for her. "Go to sleep. I'm here. I'll wake you up if anything happens." After that, he planted a light kiss on the girl's forehead. Ningxi's eyes suddenly widened. She was so shocked by Lu Tingxiao's action that she lost most of her sleepiness. "Are you sure you really want me to sleep?" Looking at the girl's widened eyes, a trace of darkness flashed across Lu Tingxiao's deep eyes. "Sorry." Although he said sorry, what he did was completely the opposite. The man leaned over and planted another kiss on the corner of her mouth. After a long time, he finally left, and Ningxi was completely awake. "You don't dare to move because I'm holding Xiaobao? Ningxi, one day, you will become Xiaobao's mother." Chapter 501. In her dreams, Ningxi's mind was still filled with Lu Tingxiao's words. "One day, you will become Xiaobao's mother." Oh, become Xiaobao's mother. If she really was, how good would that be? She really liked Xiaobao. After all, she was still worried about Xiaobao, so he didn't sleep well. Ningxi woke up not long after. The first thing she did was to look at Xiaobao in her arms. Luckily, the little fellow was still sleeping soundly in her arms. His soft fingers subconsciously tugged at the corner of her clothes, and his neck and back were covered in a fine layer of sweat. That's great. It's good to be able to sweat. It's good for heat dissipation. Ningxi immediately touched Xiaobao's forehead. His temperature seemed to have dropped quite a bit. Lu Tingxiao was originally standing in front of the wide floor-to-ceiling window, looking at the gradually brightening sky. When he heard movement on the bed, he immediately walked over. "He's awake." Ningxi touched Xiaobao's forehead and urged him softly, "Lu Tingxiao, can you check if Xiaobao's fever has dropped a little? I feel like Xiaobao's body isn't as hot as before." Lu Tingxiao nodded and touched his son's forehead with his wide palm. His expression softened slightly. "His temperature has dropped. Don't worry, I'll call the doctor in to take a look." "Okay." Ningxi nodded repeatedly. Lu Tingxiao went out for a while. When he came back, Qin Mufeng and 2 other doctors followed behind him. Qin Mufeng attentively handed over the thermometer. Lu Tingxiao took the thermometer and carefully placed it under Xiaobao's armpit. A moment later, the results were out. The thermometer showed 37.8 degrees. Although he still had a slight fever, it was much better than the previous 40 degrees. Moreover, he didn't use any medicine at all to cool his body down. This was really not easy. Following that, the other 2 doctors gave Xiaobao a detailed examination. After the examination last night, the doctor's complexion had improved a lot. Currently, young master's condition has stabilized, but we still need to continue observing him. At least until tomorrow, after 24 hours. At this moment, Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui heard the news and hurriedly walked in. They hurriedly looked at the thermometer. When they saw that the temperature had dropped, they finally heaved a sigh of relief. However, they still didn't dare to let their guard down. Yes. We still have to continue observing. It's better to be careful. We don't know if the fire will start again. It was also up and down before. Yin Rui's face was full of worry. Lu Chongshan nodded his head in agreement. His nerves that had been stretched taut for an entire night could finally relax a little. He simply didn't dare to imagine what would happen if something really happened to Xiao Bao. At this time, Ning Shi, who was holding Little Bun on the bed, suddenly frowned and exclaimed, "Ah!" For a moment, everyone's gaze landed on her nervously. Yin Rui, what's wrong? What happened to Xiao Bao? Lu Chongshan, what happened? The doctors' hearts were in their throats. They hoped that nothing bad would happen to this little devil again. Under everyone's nervous gazes, Ning Shi wanted to say something but hesitated. She looked embarrassed, which made everyone even more worried. In the end, only Lu Tingxiao walked over without saying a word. He first rolled up his sleeves slightly, then lifted the quilt and began to massage her legs naturally. He said calmly, "Are your legs numb?" Chapter 502. All the doctors and servants waiting to serve him were speechless. Oh my God! The man in front of them was personally massaging a woman's legs with his sleeves rolled up. Was he really the unreasonable young master they knew? The terrifying CEO of Lu Group, Lu Tingxiao? Since last night, their impression of Lu Tingxiao in their hearts had been refreshed again and again. Even Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui were in complete disbelief. They couldn't believe that the man in front of them was really their son, let alone the others. Previously, they only knew that their son was infatuated with this woman, but they had never seen the details with their own eyes. The shock of seeing it with their own eyes was definitely 1,000 times stronger than hearing it from others and imagining it. The son that they had given birth to was almost unrecognizable to them. Actually, Ning Shi herself was even more shocked than the surrounding onlookers. At this moment, Ning Shi felt as if thousands of wild beasts were stampeding through her heart. Great Demon King, can you restrain yourself a little? Everyone is here. Helpless, Lu Tingxiao couldn't sense the roars in her heart and the countless gazes hinting at him. He continued to focus on massaging her legs, which were numb and aching because he didn't dare to move for a long time in fear of waking Xiao Bao up. As he massaged, Ning Shi almost gave up and was already numb to the gazes around her. And, oh, the Great Demon King's skills are really good. It's so comfortable. Are you feeling better? After a while, Lu Tingxiao looked up and asked gently. Ning Shi nodded hurriedly. Yes. The way your father looks at me is as if he's looking at Baoji, who can bring disaster to the country and people and confuse the emperor. Only then did Lu Tingxiao cover her with the quilt again. He gently combed her slightly messy hair, still not hiding his love for the girl. At this moment, all the servants in the old mansion had come to a clear conclusion. The woman in front of them was definitely not to be offended. After all, he had a favor to ask now. No matter how angry Lu Chongshan was, he could only bear with it for Xiao Bao. He snorted and turned to leave with a face full of anger. Once outside, Lu Chongshan couldn't hold it in anymore and said angrily to Yin Rui, "Outrageous. Look at him. He's a man, but he's doing this for a woman. He's so humble, and he's even doing this in front of so many people. Does he even remember who he is?" As a mother, although Yin Rui was unhappy, from a woman's point of view, Lu Tingxiao's behavior wasn't inappropriate. If you really liked someone, you would naturally be very considerate. As Yin Rui thought about it, she absent-mindedly glanced at Lu Chongshan. She and Lu Chongshan's marriage was well-matched, and back then, they were also a talented man and a beautiful woman. However, she clearly knew that this man had only married her because she was the most suitable candidate and had never truly loved her. The next day, the doctor examined Xiao Bao again at noon and in the evening. In the evening, Xiao Bao's fever subsided, and his condition finally stabilized. After a day and a night of torment, everyone finally heaved a sigh of relief. Since Xiao Bao was fine, Lu Chongshan, who had long since reached the end of his patience, naturally stopped holding back. She walked into Xiao Bao's room and said to Ning Shi, "Miss Ning, sorry to trouble you this time. I'll ask the driver to send you back later." Chapter 503. After Lu Chongshan finished speaking, he instructed the butler beside him, "Xing Wu, prepare a generous gift." These words were not only to chase the guest away, but also to completely cut off all ties with the guest and show that they owed each other nothing. This was burning the bridge after crossing the river, throwing it away after using it. Wasn't it too obvious? Ningxi didn't care about Lu Chongshan's attitude towards her at all. However, when she thought about being separated from Little Bun, she felt a bone-deep pain. She subconsciously hugged Little Bun even tighter. He really didn't want to. He didn't want to be separated from Little Bun. In fact, at this moment, an intense viciousness arose in the depths of his heart, and he had the insane thought of forcefully taking Little Baozi away. Ningxi's aura suddenly became cold, and her cold eyes swept over everyone present calmly. Instinctively, she estimated everyone's strength. If she really wanted to, no one here could stop her from taking Xiaobao away except Lu Tingxiao. Perhaps sensing Ningxi's mood swings and the cold aura on her body, the Little Bun, who was originally sleeping peacefully in her arms, frowned uncomfortably. Ningxi suddenly came to a realization, and only then did she suppress the anger in her heart in annoyance. She patted Little Baozi's back to appease him. "Ruri, go and carry Xiaobao." Lu Chongshan couldn't help but get angry when he saw that the woman didn't move at all. Yin Rui nodded and was about to step forward to take Xiaobao from Ningxi's arms. At this time, Lu Tingxiao walked to the edge of Ningxi's bed first and motioned Ningxi to let him hold Xiaobao. "Ningxi, let me hold him." Ningxi looked at Lu Tingxiao warily. Even if it was Lu Tingxiao, she was unwilling to give her Little Bun to him. "No, don't give it. Little treasure is mine." Looking at the girl's guarded look, Lu Tingxiao's eyes flashed with a trace of affection. His eyes wrapped around her like a warm tide, and his gentle tone inexplicably had the ability to calm people's hearts. "Xiaoxi, be good. Trust me, okay?" Ningxi stared at Lu Tingxiao, her eyes red. She didn't believe it. No one would believe it. "Why? Why did you also want to take Xiaobao away?" "No, that's not right, he. How is this snatching? Xiaobao was originally theirs, not hers. Not hers, Ningxi. What's wrong with you? What the hell are you doing?" Ningxi used all her self-control to sober herself up. In the end, she carefully handed the Little Bun to Lu Tingxiao, but her eyes were glued to him. At the same time, her eyes were filled with grievance. Lu Tingxiao looked at the girl who was looking at him as if he was a traitor, and a helpless smile flashed across his face. Upon seeing this, Lu Chongshan nodded in satisfaction. "Xing Wu, prepare the car. Miss Ning, please follow me." Xing Wu accepted the order and motioned for Ningxi to leave with him. Lu Tingxiao picked up the Little Bun with one arm, who was obviously uneasy because of the change of arms, and protected Ningxi behind him with the other hand. Then, she looked at her parents coldly and said in a calm voice, "Dad, Mom, thank you for taking care of Xiaobao. The company isn't busy lately, and Jingli will be back soon, so I won't trouble you anymore." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui's expressions changed. Yin Rui looked anxious. "Tingxiao, what are you doing? Xiaobao's body was just right. Where are you taking Xiaobao?" Chapter 504. Lu Chongshan slammed his walking stick on the table angrily. "You bastard! What do you mean by this? You want to take Xiaobao away? Don't you dare!" Lu Tingxiao's eyes turned cold. "Father, Xiaobao is your grandson, but he's also my son." Lu Chongshan was so angry that he blurted out, "I'm still your father. I think you've been bewitched by this woman. If you dare to take Xiaobao away today, you'll have to step over my dead body." Lu Tingxiao's eyes turned cold. "If you insist on threatening me with your life, I have nothing to say. But I must take Xiaobao away today." In an instant, The atmosphere between the father and son was extremely tense. Everyone was silent and did not dare to breathe too loudly. Yin Rui was completely on her husband's side. Ting Xiao, even if you blame us for not taking good care of Xiaobao, this was an accident. We are Xiaobao's grandparents. Is there anyone in the world who is more devoted to Xiaobao than us? You'd rather trust a woman you've only known for a few days than trust your biological parents? This has nothing to do with her. Lu Chongshan could not tolerate his son's defense of that woman. He was so angry that his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He no longer cared that there were so many people present. He lost control and bellowed. Have you forgotten what happened 2 years ago? Have you forgotten how Xiaobao became like this? Isn't it enough to learn such a painful lesson once? How dare you trust a woman like her? Yin Rui saw that Lu Chongshan was getting more and more agitated, so she quickly went over to support him. Ting Xiao, please understand how your father and I feel. We're really scared. Lu Tingxiao narrowed his eyes. I understand how you feel. I swear on my life that this will not happen a second time. She's different. She's only loved Xiaobao ever since they met. You know how Xiaobao has changed since he met her. However, the thoughts of the old people were still too stubborn, especially when it came to the matter of the past. Therefore, after hearing Lu Tingxiao's words, they only wavered for a few seconds before returning to their original state. No matter what Lu Tingxiao said at that moment, they wouldn't listen to a single word. They just wouldn't allow Lu Tingxiao to take them away. Lu Tingxiao's expression grew darker and darker. Although he didn't have the heart to do it, he knew that it was better to get the pain over with than to prolong it. Therefore, he said the words that might hurt them. The most terrifying thing is not that Xiaobao is hurt by an outsider, but that he is hurt by someone close to him, and that he is destroyed in the name of love. Lu Chongshan's face stiffened and his body trembled. His son's words were like a boulder pressing down on his heart. Although he had always been doing this for Xiaobao's sake, ever since he had forcibly confined Xiaobao to the old house, he had only suffered injuries. Chapter 505. In this living room that was filled with smoke and could explode at any moment, a childish voice that could melt hearts rang out without warning. It was like a sudden clap of thunder exploding in everyone's ears. Lu Chongshan's gloomy face instantly went blank. Yin Rui, who was about to open her mouth to persuade him, suddenly widened her eyes. Even the usually calm and composed Lu Tingxiao was stunned. He held his son in his arms and stood rooted to the ground, not daring to move. That voice just now rang out in his ears. If it wasn't for the lingering breath of the little fellow when he spoke, he would have thought that he was hallucinating. He couldn't remember how long it had been since he last heard that voice, but it was almost the same as the one in his memory. He thought that he would never hear this voice again in this lifetime, because everyone present was truly too shocked. For a time, there was actually no one who spoke. However, all of their burning gazes descended onto little Bao, and their gazes were filled with hesitation and desire to speak. The one who was even more shocked than Xiao Bao's grandparents and father was probably Ning Shi. She was standing right in front of Xiao Bao, and not only did she hear it with her own ears, she also saw the moment Xiao Bao opened his mouth with her own eyes. Xiao Bao was completely oblivious to what he had done and how big of an impact he had caused. He only focused on maintaining his posture of asking for a hug. Seeing that Ning Shi was ignoring him, he pursed his lips and revealed a sad expression that looked like he was about to cry. Only then did the dazed Ning Shi snap out of her daze. She hurriedly rushed forward and carried Xiao Bao from Lu Tingxiao's arms. Ning Shi's action was like a switch, and everyone else also recovered from their shock. Tingxiao, Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao just now, did he? Was Xiao Bao talking just now? Was it Xiao Bao? Yin Rui and Lu Chongshan asked one after another, so excited that even their voices were trembling. The doctors and servants around them also began to whisper to each other. Did you guys hear that just now? Little young master spoke. I heard it. Little young master said he was going to hug him. I thought I heard it wrong. Little young master hasn't spoken for 2 years. This is too amazing. What exactly happened just now? I don't know. He suddenly spoke. I'm stunned. After returning to Aunt Xiaoxi's arms, little Bun was finally satisfied. Even the noise around him could not affect him. He yawned delicately, then lay on Aunt Xiaoxi's fragrant shoulder and fell asleep again with great peace of mind. He left the room full of people who were stunned by his unintentional words. That Miss Ning, did you see little Bao talking just now? Can you talk to Xiao Bao and let him say more? Yin Rui asked carefully. Lu Chongshan seemed to have completely forgotten who the person who had been glaring at him was. He echoed from the side, "That's right." Seeing that Yin Rui and Lu Chongshan were looking at her eagerly, Ning Shi patted her back and coughed awkwardly. But Xiaobao is asleep. Yin Rui, Lu Chongshan, sleeping again? Wasn't he trying to make them anxious to death? But he couldn't wake up his precious grandson at this time. What could he do? Therefore, everyone's eyes fell on Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao looked at his son with a complicated expression, gently touched his son's little head with his big warm palm, and said softly, "Xiaobao did speak just now. Don't worry, let's wait until he wakes up." Chapter 506. No hurry. They had been waiting for 2 years. They thought it was impossible for Xiaobao to talk to them again. How could they not be anxious? But now they had no choice but to wait. Xing Wu, whose task was interrupted because of Baozi, finally found a chance to speak. "Master, should we prepare a car?" As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Chongshan immediately shot him a displeased look. "Prepare a car. Go to the kitchen to prepare dinner." With that, he coughed and turned to Ning Shi awkwardly. "Miss Ning, stay for dinner." How could he be willing to let this woman stay? But his precious grandson didn't speak to his grandparents or his father or the doctor, but to this woman. "Yes, stay for dinner." "No, stay for a few more days." "Look, Xiaobao can't leave you now, right?" Yin Rui also said. Faced with the sudden change of attitude, Ning Shi subconsciously looked at Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao frowned and didn't give in. This time, he would definitely take Xiaobao away. After all, Xiaobao was his son. Lu Chongshan knew what Lu Tingxiao was thinking. He said seriously, "Even if you want to take Xiaobao away, you should at least wait until he recovers. Then we can let you take him away. Are you trying to make us anxious to death by taking Xiaobao away?" Hearing this, the stubborn Lu Chongshan actually compromised. A gleam of surprise flashed across Lu Tingxiao's eyes. Then he looked at Ning Shi and said, "Let's go back to the room and wait for Xiaobao to wake up." Xiaobao had just spoken. If he took Xiaobao away now, Lu Chongshan would really break off the relationship between him and his son. In this case, Ning Shi understood. She nodded and went back to the room with Baozi in her arms. As soon as Ning Shi entered the room with Baozi, Yin Rui and Lu Chongshan couldn't control their emotions anymore. Chongshan, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Our Xiaobao spoke. Xiaobao really spoke. I thought I wouldn't be able to live until the day I die." Yin Ruyu burst into tears. "Nonsense. Didn't Xiaobao speak? I told him that with the blessing of our ancestors, Xiaobao would definitely recover." Looking at his parents' excited faces, Lu Tingxiao wanted to say something but stopped himself. In the end, he didn't pour cold water on them. Xiaobao had only said one word, and he had said it unconsciously. Even so, it was already a huge breakthrough. In the room, Ning Shi kissed little Bun's soft cheeks. She was so happy that she was about to go to heaven. Roar! My steamed bun has spoken. 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 My steamed bun wants me to hug. My steamed bun's voice is so cute, so cute. My heart melts. How could even her voice be so cute? At this moment, everyone was waiting anxiously and nervously. Fortunately, little Bun had slept for a day and a night and was already full. After waking up just now, he only slept for a while and quickly woke up. When Ning Shi saw little Bun open his eyes, her face was immediately filled with surprise. At the same time, she was a little nervous, afraid that she would startle him. She said softly, "Baby, you're awake?" Little Baozi blinked, looked at Ning Shi for a while, and blinked again. Finally, she was sure that the person in front of her was Aunt Xiaoxi, and her big black grape-like eyes suddenly sparkled like stars. Chapter 507. Xiao Baozi rubbed himself in Ning Shi's arms and looked at her without blinking, as if he was afraid that she would disappear if he blinked. Seeing this, Ning Shi felt distressed and kissed the little bun on both cheeks. Aunt Xiaoxi, it's true. It's not a dream. Papa brought Aunt Xiaoxi to see you. It's because you're sick. Being kissed, Xiao Baozi's cheeks were flushed and all the uneasiness in his heart was dispelled. He pursed his lips shyly and kissed Ning Shi back. Ning Shi covered her face and felt so happy that she would feel like this even if she won an Oscar. Looking at Xiao Baozi's eyes that seemed to be able to speak, Ning Shi wanted to spend more time with him, but she knew that there were still many people waiting anxiously outside. So she said, "Baby, are you hungry? I'll take you to eat something, okay?" Xiao Baozi nodded obediently. "Wait a minute. I'll help you get dressed." Ning Shi walked to the wardrobe with Xiao Baozi in her arms and began to choose clothes for him. "Do you want to wear that?" Xiao Baozi glanced at the wardrobe and chose a set of cartoon sweaters that Ning Shi had bought for him. "Well, just as I thought." After helping Xiao Baozi get dressed, Ning Shi walked out with Xiao Baozi in her arms. As soon as they went out, they were stared at by everyone. The little fellow, who was lying on the bed and dying last night, had now changed into bright-colored clothes and was held in Ning Shi's arms. His eyes were also a lot more lively, as if he had become a different person. The servants couldn't help thinking, sure enough, a child with a mother is like a treasure. Yin Rui's eyes turned red when she saw her grandson wake up, handsome and lovable. Xiao Bao is awake. Come on, come and eat. You must be hungry after not eating for so long." Lu Chongshan also said, "Don't just stand there. Sit down and eat." At the dinner table, Lu Chongshan sat at the head of the table and Lu Tingxiao sat on his left. Lu Chongshan was going to let Xiao Bao sit on his other side, but the little boy turned his head and immediately hugged Ning Shi's neck. In the end, Lu Tingxiao pulled out the seat next to him and let Ning Shi sit next to him. Yin Rui and Qin Mufeng sat opposite them. At the dining table, except for Ning Shi who was focused on feeding Xiao Bao, everyone else had their own thoughts. Of course, the thing that everyone was most concerned about was whether little Bao was really willing to speak. In the end, Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui could no longer hold themselves back. "Xiao Bao, are you still feeling unwell?" Yin Rui asked lovingly. Xiao Bao was focused on being fed porridge by Ning Shi and did not answer. Yin Rui naturally did not mind. She continued probing with concern. "Xiao Bao, is the porridge bad? You're sick, so you can't eat oily food. Grandma will cook something delicious for you later, okay? You're not feeling well, so Grandpa has helped you apply for leave. You don't have to go to school these few days." Yin Rui and Lu Chongshan talked to Xiao Bao for a long time. However, Xiao Bao seemed to be a little slow in responding to the questions from the outside world. He only gave very indifferent responses, as if he didn't hear them at all. It was as if he had returned to the past overnight. This made Yin Rui anxious. She had finally opened her mouth to say a word, but she was not sure if he was really willing to speak. Why did he return to the past? Chapter 508. Ting Xiao, what's wrong with Xiao Bao? Why does he look dull? Yin Rui said anxiously. She had been looking forward to teasing Xiao Bao, but he didn't say a word and didn't even respond. How could she not be anxious? Lu Chongshan said unhappily, "What dullness? Xiao Bao has just recovered from a serious illness, so it's normal for him to be slow." In fact, Lu Chongshan was also worried. He was worried that Xiao Bao's brain might have a problem after having a fever for so long. Qin Mufeng frowned. He was also worried that Xiao Bao's condition was not right. Ningxi had been playing with Xiao Bao for a while in the room, so she knew clearly that there was nothing wrong with Xiao Bao. However, in front of Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui, she was in an awkward position. If she said a wrong word, she would bring trouble to herself, so she didn't say anything. Therefore, she remained invisible and focused on feeding Xiao Bao. Although Lu Tingxiao didn't know anything, he looked calm and not anxious at all. He glanced at his son who was obediently eating porridge in Ningxi's arms, and then said casually, "Xiao Bao, there's something dirty in your Aunt Xiaoxi's hair." Xiao Bao, who was eating porridge, immediately looked up, stared at Aunt Xiaoxi's hair, and searched with his soft little hands. After searching for a long time, he still couldn't find it, so he looked at Papa anxiously, with his big eyes full of anxiety. Where is it? Lu Tingxiao picked up a piece of fish for Ning Shi and said slowly, I was wrong. Xiao Bao. Ning Shi. This devil is so cunning. Lu Chongshan and Yen Rui. How could you lie to a child like this? Qin Mufeng. Ahem. However, after being reminded by Lu Tingxiao, they finally understood that even if Xiao Bao was sick and weak, his brain and reaction were completely fine. He was very clever. However, he only reacted to things that he cared about. Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui looked at each other with a bad expression. Sure enough, they forced Xiaobao to stay with them and restricted him from seeing Ning Shi, which made Xiaobao feel repulsed by them. Seeing the tense atmosphere at the dining table, Qin Mufeng felt that it was time for him to play a role as a psychologist. Thus, Qin Mufeng coughed lightly, took out a pen and paper, and wrote a word on it. Then, he placed it in front of Xiaobao and coaxed him gently. Xiaobao, do you know how to pronounce this word? Qin Mufeng wrote the word Shi on the paper. Shi as in Ning Shi. To think that he would actually tempt Xiaobao to talk like that. Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui had a look of admiration on their faces. He was indeed a professional psychologist. Lu Tingxiao glanced at the word, tilted his head, and didn't say anything. Xiaobao stared at the word. Everyone stared at Xiaobao. Under the nervous gazes of everyone at the table, Xiaobao first looked at Qin Mufeng with a very subtle expression, then immediately picked up the pen and wrote on the paper, Shi. Then, it threw away the pen and raised its head to look at Ning Shi, indicating that it wanted to continue feeding. Puff! Ning Shi, who had been silent all night, couldn't help but burst into laughter. My darling little treasure is too naughty. But what if she became cuter? Qin Mufeng wanted to smash his head against the ground. His wisdom in this lifetime was ruined by this brat's hands. Chapter 509. Although Qin Mufeng had been tricked by Lil Bun, Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui looked much better. Their worries about Lil Bao's brain had all disappeared. They knew that Lil Bao was smart. The way the little fellow looked at Qin Mufeng just now was obviously intentional. The more they looked at him, the more he looked like Tingxiao when he was young. Although he didn't like to talk, he was so bored. The two elders looked at Xiaobao with eyes full of love and pride. Qin Mufeng could only silently vomit blood at the side. Forget it, forget it. His sacrifice had finally made a contribution. Didn't it set off the little ancestor's intelligence? In the end, the meal was finished in a harmonious atmosphere. However, everyone felt a little regretful because no matter how they probed, Lil Bao didn't say a word. After dinner, Ning Shi knew that they definitely had something to discuss, so she brought Lil Bao back to her room. What do we do now? Our Lil Bao still doesn't want to talk. Yin Rui sighed. Lu Chongshan's expression was solemn. In order to save face, Qin Mufeng explained in his professional way. Actually, it's easy to understand. Lil Bao doesn't want to talk because there's always a shadow in his heart. Subconsciously, he's always in a state of self-protection and vigilance. However, when he was in a completely relaxed state and in front of someone he could completely trust, he would naturally speak after all the conditions were met. He didn't even need any guidance. This is in line with the direction of my previous judgment. So you're saying that to make Lil Bao speak, we still have to rely on that. Lu Chongshan coughed lightly and finally stopped calling her that woman. We still have to rely on Ning Shi? Qin Mufeng nodded. You can understand it that way. Ning Shi is the key factor. You could even say that she's the decisive factor. Actually, Qin Mufeng had said similar things countless times, but it was a pity that Lu Chongshan was too stubborn and wouldn't listen. Lu Chongshan and Yin Rui couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Yin Rui sighed and comforted herself. So many doctors have looked at him and said that his condition isn't optimistic. They said that with Lil Bao's condition, there's a high chance that he won't be able to speak for the rest of his life. At least this proves that it's entirely possible to make Lil Bao speak. Lu Chongshan nodded. Yes, this is a good thing. Lu Chongshan looked at his eldest son and said, Come with me. In the study, Lu Chongshan was silent for a while, as if he was making an important decision. After a while, he finally said, "Take Xiaobao with you." Lu Tingxiao wasn't surprised by Lu Chongshan's decision. However, it was better than he had expected that his father would change his mind. He didn't expect Xiaobao to suddenly speak up. "It's true that I didn't take good care of Xiaobao while he was with me. This is my responsibility. However, even if I hand Xiaobao over to you now, it doesn't mean that I'm completely at ease. If anything happens to Xiaobao while he's at your place, I'll still bring Xiaobao back immediately. At that time, you're not allowed to object. Do you agree?" Lu Chongshan said with a serious expression. Lu Tingxiao nodded. "Sure." Lu Chongshan turned his face away and waved his hand impatiently, as if afraid that he would regret it. "Go." Chapter 510. In Xiao Bao's bedroom, Ningxi hugged Xiao Baozi in her arms, and her mind began to uncontrollably formulate a plan to steal Xiao Baozi. Although she had managed to stall for time, sooner or later, she would still have to part ways with Little Bun. Damn it, she might as well take Little Bun and roam the world. Just as he was letting his imagination run wild, he heard a low voice. "What are you thinking about?" "Stealing buns." Ningxi blurted out. "Heh." The man chuckled. Only then did Ningxi realize that the person who spoke was the great Demon King. She raised her head in horror. It's over. He actually dared to directly say such a rebellious idea of stealing the crown prince. Together? Lu Tingxiao suddenly asked a seemingly unrelated question. Ningxi was stunned. When she realized what he meant, her cheeks heated up. The great Demon King actually asked if she wanted to steal both the big and small steamed bun. That was against the rules. Actually, I really want to. Lu Tingxiao finally stopped teasing her and said, "Let's go." "Leave?" Ningxi's face darkened. Finally, it was time to leave. Little steamed bun also noticed something. She hugged Ningxi tightly and stared at her papa vigilantly. Under the sorrowful gazes of the adult and the child, Lu Tingxiao's gaze was as gentle as water. "Let's go together." Even when they were already in the car, Ningxi still couldn't believe that she had really left the old house with Xiao Bun in her arms. It was like a dream. Happiness came too suddenly. It seemed like Lu Tingxiao had finally negotiated with his parents. Ningxi was relieved. It would be much more convenient for her to visit Little Bun when she moved back to the Platinum Gold Rank Palace in the future. However, she didn't expect the final result to be even more surprising than she had imagined. Lu Tingxiao directly asked Cheng Feng to drive the car to her apartment, then opened the car door and let her and Little Bun get out. "This is..." Ningxi was confused. Lu Tingxiao looked at the confused girl in front of him, then at his son who still stuck close to Ningxi with a guarded look, and said lightly, "You don't have to steal it. I can give it to you." Ningxi? Huh? This time, Ningxi was really confused. What did the great Demon King mean? He was going to give Little Bun to her? This is your son. How can you give him away just like that? Was he his biological son? Although, this was what she had always dreamed of now, she didn't even need to steal it. Master gave it to her? Hearing that she was going to be given away by her papa, the Little Bun was stunned for a moment. There wasn't the slightest bit of sadness from being abandoned by her father on her face. Instead, her big eyes sparkled in an instant, and her small expression was that of joy. That was great. Papa is going to give me away. Lu Tingxiao didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at his son's joyful expression. He didn't seem to be reluctant to leave his biological father. Ahem. Boss, you were joking, right? Ningxi forced a smile and asked. Lu Tingxiao picked up his son and walked into the apartment. He was serious with his actions. At the door, Lu Tingxiao reminded Ningxi, who was still in a daze. "Open the door." "Oh." Ningxi quickly took out the key and opened the door. After entering the house, Lu Tingxiao put his son down and said, "You probably don't have any work to do these days, so let Xiaobao stay here for a while. If anything happens, call me and I'll ask Uncle Yuan to come and take care of Xiaobao." Chapter 511. Lu Tingxiao's words dispelled all of Ningxi's concerns. Ouch! The devil is so sweet. Mrs. is so sweet. Mrs. is so gentle. I want to marry her. Baozi naively thought that Papa was really going to give him to Aunt Xiaoxi. Hearing that he would only live with her for a while, he was a little unhappy and looked like he had been cheated. "Didn't you say you would give me away? Papa is such a liar." Lu Tingxiao raised his eyebrows and gave his son a hint, which meant, "I have given you the chance. Whether you can stay with Aunt Xiaoxi for the rest of your life depends on your performance." Baozi pursed his lips and looked solemn. "I can do it." It was useless to rely on Papa. He had to control his own fate. Seeing his son full of fighting spirit, Lu Tingxiao nodded with satisfaction and didn't feel guilty at all that he was taking advantage of his son. "Very good. This trump card has finally been delivered to my wife's side." She didn't know that she had fallen into the devil's trap. At this moment, she was full of joy that she could live with Baozi in the future. "It's late. I'm leaving. Have a good rest." Lu Tingxiao looked at the time on his watch. Although he was reluctant, he had to say goodbye. Hearing this, Ningxi's face changed slightly. Lu Tingxiao bent down and said to his son, "Xiaobao, I'm leaving. Listen to Aunt Xiaoxi." Seeing that Lu Tingxiao was about to leave after saying a few words to Baozi, Ningxi hurriedly stopped him. "Wait, anything else?" Lu Tingxiao stopped and asked. Yes, yes, yes." "Well." Ningxi scratched her head and said awkwardly, "Lu Tingxiao, can you stay tonight?" Lu Tingxiao's calm expression immediately turned into one of astonishment. His cold eyes lit up as he looked at the girl with a burning gaze. If Xiaobao wasn't here, Ningxi's words could be regarded as a kind of ambiguous invitation. Although he knew that she didn't mean that, she still set him on fire. Ningxi naturally realized that her words were inappropriate and hurriedly explained, "Baozi has just recovered. Although the doctor has checked and said that he is fine, there is a possibility that he will relapse. I'm afraid that if, after all, this was related to little Bun's health, so she didn't dare to be careless. In addition, this was the first time she was taking care of a child alone, so she was a little flustered." Lu Tingxiao understood Ningxi's worry. Looking at the girl's dependent eyes, the fire in his eyes turned into warmth in his heart. "Okay." Ningxi breathed a sigh of relief, and the uneasiness in her heart disappeared. "Then I'll make the bed for you." No one had stayed in the guest room before, and everything was new. You could move in right away. Just a change of clothes. Lu Tingxiao, "I'll have someone send it over." "Oh, okay then." Papa stayed behind just like that. The world of two people that she had been looking forward to was broken just like that. Little Baozi's young heart once again received a blow of understanding. Lu Tingxiao rubbed his son's head with his large palm and smiled. Then, he reminded him seriously, "Don't forget, we're allies. The so-called alliance is not only about cooperation, but also about sharing benefits. So, you can't monopolize it." Little Baozi was indignant, but he couldn't refute, so he turned around and ran to the guest room to find Aunt Xiaoxi for comfort. "Papa is bullying me again." Chapter 512. After settling Big Bun down, Ningxi coaxed Little Bun to sleep. Little Bun wanted to listen to Ningxi sing. However, Ningxi sang a few songs that Little Bun liked, but the little boy still stared at her with bright eyes and didn't seem to want to sleep at all. "Baby, aren't you sleepy? Do you want Auntie to tell you a story?" Ningxi asked tentatively, but Little Bun shook his head hard. Ningxi touched her chin. Or do you want Annie to sing? Little Bun nodded. Don't you like what I sang just now? Ningxi asked again. Little Bun nodded. Ningxi seemed to understand. Then, Auntie will change a song for you? Little Bun continued to nod, looking expectant but afraid of disappointment. Ningxi thought for a moment and then sang, Sleep, sleep, my dear baby. Mama's hands gently rocking you. After changing to this song, Little Bun's little face immediately lit up. He rubbed against Ningxi and stuck to her arms, closing his eyes obediently. Ningxi couldn't help laughing and touched Little Bun's head. So he wanted to listen to this song. Previously, when she sang it for Little Bun at the old house, the little fellow was delirious from the fever, but he probably heard it subconsciously, so he kept wanting to listen to this song. However, because he was in a daze at that time, he didn't know which song Ningxi was singing. When Ningxi sang it again, he was finally satisfied. Amidst the gentle singing, Little Bun quickly fell asleep. Ningxi was still worried, so she touched Little Bun's forehead to make sure that his temperature was normal. She kissed Little Bun's forehead and then gently moved out of bed to check on Big Bun. She knocked on the door, but there was no response. Did he sleep so early? This didn't fit Lu Tingxiao's routine. Ningxi opened the door suspiciously and found that the bedside light was still on, and the laptop was still open. Lu Tingxiao was half lying on the bed, asleep. Ningxi couldn't help frowning when she saw the heavy shadows under the man's eyes. Previously, Lu Tingxiao had said that the company wasn't busy, but he was lying. Lu Jingli had been out for so long, so Lu Tingxiao's work had to be doubled. Just like that, last night, he went to the airport to pick her up in the middle of the night. Later, when Xiaobao had a fever, she slept with him for a while, but he must have stayed up all day and all night. Ningxi walked over carefully with light steps and helped Lu Tingxiao up. She adjusted the pillow and took off his coat before letting him lie down to sleep. Ningxi covered Lu Tingxiao with the quilt, closed the laptop, and turned off the lights before preparing to leave. However, the moment she got up, she did not move. With the help of the moonlight outside the window, she quietly looked at the man's perfect face that was loved by God. She looked at the man's cold and distant expression even when he was asleep. Although it was clearly an extremely perfect face, it was cold, hard, and emotionless. For some reason, as he looked at it, he felt as if he was attracted by an enormous vortex, and he was completely unable to shift his gaze away. It was even to the extent that he couldn't help but want to get closer. As she thought about this, Ningxi had already uncontrollably returned to the bed and leaned over. By the time she came back to her senses, her ink-black hair was hanging on the man's shoulder, just a breath away from the man's thin lips. The moment she almost kissed him, Ningxi suddenly came back to her senses. She hurriedly ran away as if there was a ferocious beast chasing after her. What Ningxi didn't know was that behind her, the moment she left, the man on the bed suddenly opened his eyes. His deep and serene eyes were filled with clarity. Chapter 5:13. The man on the bed suddenly opened his eyes. His deep eyes were clear and there wasn't a hint of drowsiness in them. Earlier on, he was lying on the bed with his eyes closed for a short nap. When Ningxi knocked on the door, he was in a light sleep and indeed didn't hear it. But when Ningxi pushed the door open and entered, he was already awake. But for some unknown reason, he didn't immediately open his eyes. Later on, Ningxi carefully helped him to undress, helped him to lie down and covered him with the blanket. Even though he knew that she was just showing concern and respect to him as a boss and superior, but to feel the girl's silent concern for him, Lu Tingxiao still felt as though his cold blood was injected with warmth, even his tiredness was swept away. However, just at this moment, he thought that the girl had finished preparing to leave, but what made him feel strange was that the girl's footsteps moved a little, but suddenly there wasn't any sound. She didn't leave nor did she move. He seemed to feel that the girl's gaze was on him. What was she doing? What was she looking at? Unfortunately, he couldn't open his eyes and could only continue to pretend that he didn't know anything as he laid motionlessly on the bed, concentrating on every single sound. The girl stood by the side of his bed and remained silent for a long time. It was so quiet that just being stared at like that made him slightly react. Finally, he heard an extremely faint sound of clothes rubbing against each other. Ningxi seemed to be approaching him. Just as he was feeling suspicious, he actually felt something ticklish on his shoulders, and following that, he felt an extremely familiar girl's sweet scent. A thought flashed past his mind, and he finally knew that the ticklish thing was the girl's hair, and she was extremely close to him. At this moment, Lu Tingxiao's heart almost stopped and all the blood in his body almost flowed in reverse. An electric current ran through his spine and exploded in his central nervous system as a warm current rose in his lower abdomen. What was she doing? Lu Tingxiao lay there stiffly and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. The girl was getting closer and closer, even closer. In the next second, he almost thought that the soft and sweet scent that he had been waiting for was about to land on him, but the girl's scent suddenly went far away, and then there was a burst of hurried footsteps. Lu Tingxiao opened his eyes and almost thought that what happened earlier was just a dream. But no, that wasn't a dream. It was all real. Ningxi had indeed done something very strange and incomprehensible to him. After all, his eyes were closed just now, so he couldn't be sure what she was doing. He could only guess that she wanted to kiss him, but changed her mind at the last second? Or was it all just his wishful thinking? Maybe it was just that there was something dirty in his hair, and she came over to look for it for a while and helped him remove it? Heh. Lu Tingxiao held his forehead and looked at the intense reaction of his lower body. He laughed bitterly and felt like he was going crazy. How could that be? Why would she want to kiss him? He was the only one who could do such a thing. And because of his own imagination, because of an illusory kiss that did not exist, his body reacted. Lu Tingxiao hurriedly got up and entered the bathroom in the room. The cold water didn't lower his body temperature at all. The fire in his body burned even more fiercely. Xiaoxi? Finally, the man couldn't bear it anymore. He put his hand under his body and moved slowly. He imagined that the girl would really kiss him just now. Imagined that it would be a lingering moment. Unexpectedly, he let it all out just like that. Chapter 5:14. After coming out of the guest room, Ningxi ran all the way to the balcony. After being blown by the cold wind for a while, she finally woke up a little. She was so seductive. She had almost taken advantage of the devil while he was asleep. She was so crazy. Fortunately, she came to her senses at the last moment and stopped her evil behavior. Sure enough, having such a juicy and alluring cabbage by his side that he could only look at but not eat was simply too dangerous, and it was too self-torturous. Ningxi was lying on the balcony, confessing to herself, when the phone in her pocket rang. There was a new message from Annie. Ningxi's eyes lit up and she immediately became sober. She clicked on the message. Annie, brother Shi, are you there? Ningxi immediately replied, yes, what's up? Annie, yes, big brother has been in a very bad mood these days. Ningxi frowned. What happened? How bad was it that Annie used the word very 3 times? Annie, I think big brother must have quarreled with you again. Ningxi thought she could get some important information. After reading this message, the corners of her mouth twitched. You're thinking too much. I haven't contacted him. How could I quarrel with him? After sending this message, Ningxi suddenly felt that something was wrong. Oh, no. She seemed to have quarreled with that guy some time ago. Because of what happened in Feiqing City, she was so angry that she texted him and called him a bastard. Was it because of that? The more Ningxi thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Annie, brother Shi, don't hide it from me. I know everything. Are you angry because of what happened in Feiqing City? Big brother didn't mean to hurt you. He was very angry when he found out. It wasn't Big brother's order at all. It was his subordinates who acted on their own. Big brother was furious and made them pay for it. Ningxi was surprised to see this message. So that was why. No wonder she always felt that it was a little strange. It didn't seem like that guy's style. But she was angry at that time and didn't think much about it. Besides, that guy's character was unpredictable. He was more fickle than a woman. Who knew when he would change? Everything was possible and couldn't be predicted by common sense. However, this matter was not the main point. The main point was that after that incident, she vaguely sensed a possibility that she had never thought of. The relationship between that person and Lu Tingxiao wasn't just because of her. There must be some other connection. Every time that person mentioned Lu Tingxiao, his attitude was too subtle, as if there was some kind of blood feud. This feeling grew stronger and stronger, so she couldn't help but take the risk to return to St. Bernardine and look for her third senior sister, Feng Xiaoxiao, to investigate this matter. Okay, I got it. Is there anything else? Ning, she sent a message to ask. Annie. Also, brother Shi, didn't you want me to be a spy? I've been keeping an eye out for you. Recently, there have been people looking for trouble with Big Brother, so Big Brother has been at sea during this period of time. Nothing unusual has happened. However, I've just received a piece of news, and I'm a little worried. Ningxi immediately tensed up. What news? Annie, I just saw that Big Brother gave Brother Yi a mission. Ningxi, what level? Annie, S rank. Ningxi looked at the words S rank on her phone and turned pale. Sure enough, if it wasn't an S rank mission, Annie wouldn't be so nervous that she would take the risk to inform her. Damn it, what kind of mission did that guy give her? Not only was it S rank, but Tang Yi had also come personally. Was it related to Lu Tingxiao? Chapter 515. At the same time, in the largest casino in Las Vegas. Inside a luxurious private room, there was a small mountain of account books on the coffee table. On the leather sofa sat a man wearing a pair of gold-rimmed spectacles. He looked like a gentleman. Beneath the man's feet was a pool of blood. A bald man was clutching his severed right hand and twitching uncontrollably. Everyone else was trembling in fear, sweating profusely. At this moment, the computer on the coffee table, which was initially turned off, suddenly turned on automatically. A blood-red letter S appeared on the screen, followed by a shrill alarm. When they saw this symbol, everyone in the room revealed a horrified expression. S-rank mission? Did something big happen at the top? Even Tang Ye's expression became solemn. He raised his hand and gestured for everyone to leave. In an instant, everyone left as fast as they could, leaving Tang Yi alone in the private room. Tang Yi pressed a certain key on the keyboard. In the next second, an image flashed on the computer screen. The sound of waves could be heard from the speakers. The video showed a starry night sky. Under the moonlight, a blurry silhouette could be seen on the wooden deck. Tang Ye's expression was unusually solemn. He immediately looked at the person in the video and asked, Satan, what happened? The missions in the organization were divided into 4 levels according to their level of importance. A, B, C, and D above A rank. There were even more important and difficult missions, which were S rank missions. The last time he accepted an S rank mission was more than 3 years ago. That time, they were almost wiped out. Hence, Tang Yi could not be blamed for being so nervous. In the video, the silhouette in the dark was lying on the deck, looking up at the starry sky. One of his knees was bent, and one of his arms was casually placed above his head. After a long while, under Tang Ye's extremely nervous gaze, he said softly, am I really bad at wooing women? Tang Yi was speechless. After waiting for a long time and preparing himself for a long time, he thought that it was going to be some shocking news. In the end, he was greeted with such an irrelevant question. Cracks appeared on Tang Ye's face like a spider's web. Did you call me just to ask this? Of course not. The man had a, how is that possible? How could I be so muddle-headed tone? Then he reminded, Yi, you haven't answered my question. Although Tang Yi was used to this man's unpredictable personality, he still couldn't take it. He took a deep breath to suppress the surging emotions in his chest and replied patiently, yes. Well, sure enough, only you dare to tell me the truth. The man sighed and then asked, do you think I should propose to her? What? Tang Ye's face under the glasses was on the verge of collapse. Propose? This fellow, did his thoughts have to jump so far? Well, I'm really a genius. Before Tang Yi could say anything, the man had already started talking to himself. On the other end of the video call, Tang Yi pinched the space between his eyebrows and said, "Satan, I have to remind you that the situation outside is very tense. You can't leave this area for at least a month." "Of course I know. So, help me go," the man said in a matter-of-fact tone, which was extremely annoying. Tang Yi was speechless. The calmness on Tang Yi's face finally cracked. He gritted his teeth and said word by word, "So, your so-called S-rank mission is for me to help you propose to little junior sister?" Chapter 516. That's right. The man replied affirmatively. Tang Yi pinched his eyebrows and took a deep breath, as if trying to suppress his emotions. After a while, he said to the man in the video call with a cold expression, "I'm sorry, I refuse to accept this mission." The man in the video call wasn't angry at all after being rejected. Instead, he said in a good-natured tone, "Well, then I'll have to go myself." Absolutely not. Tang Yi resisted the urge to kill his master. In the end, after cursing the man 100 times in his heart, he finally relented. "Fine, I'll go." On the deck, the man flipped over and stood up. His slender fingers combed through the messy hair on his forehead. In the darkness, he revealed an incomparably evil smile. "You can only succeed. You can't fail, Tang Yi. Just go to hell." He would rather take on a real S-rank mission. Ha 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 ha. Tang Yi finally exploded in anger. The man laughed heartily as if he had a great sense of accomplishment. When he was done laughing, he finally narrowed his eyes and said sinisterly, "If you succeed, bring her back. If you fail, help me pass a message." Tang Yi, haha, where did he get the confidence to think that there was a possibility of success? It wasn't that he didn't know how to woo girls. When it came to matters between men and women, his EQ was practically a disaster. However, Tang Yi knew that as long as he had decided on something, he would never change his mind. If he didn't do as he wished, he would definitely run out and have fun. The consequences would be unimaginable. On the balcony, Ningxi's imagination ran wild for a while, but she quickly calmed down. Why did she have to associate everything with Lu Tingxiao? This was an S-rank mission. It must be an internal matter of the organization. She finally lay down on the bed. Just as she closed her eyes to sleep, her right eyelid twitched non-stop. Right eyelid twitching. Disaster? Just as she was thinking about this, her left eyelid started twitching too. Her left eyelid twitched for wealth. Why did her left and right eyelids twitch at the same time? Was it a disaster or a fortune? The next morning, Ningxi woke up early and personally cooked breakfast. A simple seafood porridge, a heart-shaped poached egg, and some appetizers that she usually pickled. It looked very appetizing. Just as she was arranging the plates, she suddenly felt something soft on her calf. She looked down and saw that little Bun had woken up. "Baby, you're awake. Go wash your face and brush your teeth." The housekeeper had already sent her toiletries and clothes last night, so she didn't have to worry at all. Little Bun shook his head. He raised his little head and opened his short arms, indicating that he wanted to hug her first. Ningxi naturally would not refuse. She smiled and satisfied the little fellow's request. Just as she was being lovey-dovey with little Bun, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned around and saw that Lu Tingxiao had woken up. This wasn't the first time she had seen Lu Tingxiao wake up, but today, something felt different. The look in his eyes seemed a little different. In the past, when Lu Tingxiao looked at her, his eyes were as gentle as water, like a spring breeze, or the kind of healing herbivorous eyes. But now, his eyes gave her a feeling that everything before was just a facade, and that the seal of the great demon king was slowly being lifted. After all, Ningxi had almost done something shameful last night, so she felt a little guilty and didn't dare to look at him. She coughed lightly and said, "Boss, you're awake. Wash up and it's time for dinner." Lu Tingxiao collected his thoughts and withdrew his probing gaze. His expression returned to its usual coldness. Chapter 5:17. Before breakfast, she measured Little Bun's body temperature as usual. Seeing that it was normal, she was completely relieved. As for Little Bun, she wasn't anxious at all after he said that one word and didn't speak again. To her, Little Bun's health was the most important thing. Although she also hoped that Little Bun could speak soon, she definitely wouldn't force him to do something he didn't like. When he was truly willing to speak, he would naturally speak. After breakfast, she suddenly remembered something. Oh right. I almost forgot. I brought you presents. Presents? Little Bun's eyes lit up. She went back into the house and took out 2 sky blue gift bags, one big and one small. She handed them to Little Bun and Big Bun respectively. Lu Tingxiao took the bags and was slightly surprised. I have one too? Of course. And the Demon King's presents were the most expensive. Lu Tingxiao opened the bag. There was a suit inside. He looked at his sons and saw that it was indeed a set of children's clothes. Ningxi's biggest hobby was probably watching the father and son wear parent-child clothes. However, in addition to clothes, there were also different things. Ningxi also bought a stuffed bear for Little Bun to hang on her school bag and a tie clip for Lu Tingxiao. How is it? How is it? Is it okay? Do you like it? Ningxi asked nervously. Little Bun's answer was to run into the house and take out his little school bag. He then handed it to Ningxi and asked her to hang the bear on it. Lu Tingxiao said, I'll wear it for you to see. Hearing this, Ningxi was instantly overjoyed. She nodded vigorously. Okay. I want to see it. Little Bun puffed up his cheeks unwillingly and carried the clothes into the house to change. Ningxi cupped her chin and waited expectantly. She was more nervous than expectant, because the color she chose this time was challenging the Demon King's limits. Last time, it was sapphire blue. This time, she chose red. She even dared to bet that the Demon King might have never worn red clothes in his life. Of course, she couldn't choose a bright red that was too exaggerated. She chose a very elegant maroon red. When the Demon King saw the clothes just now, he said he wanted to try them on without hesitation. She was shocked for a long time and was afraid that the Demon King wouldn't want to wear them. After waiting anxiously, the father and son changed their clothes at almost the same time and pushed open the door. Looking at the steamed buns standing side by side, Ningxi suddenly froze. So handsome, ah! How could he be so handsome? He didn't expect the great Demon King to look so handsome even in this color. It didn't feel out of place at all. As expected, there was no color that the great Demon King couldn't handle. Besides, because he had never seen the great Demon King wear such a color, he was even more excited when he saw it. What do you think? Lu Tingxiao raised his eyebrows slightly. In fact, he could tell what the girl was thinking from her expression. He had never worn this color in his life, but because it was a gift from her, he put it on without any hesitation. He even enjoyed it. As long as it was his wife's choice, even if it was green, he would still wear it. Too handsome. After seeing the father and son try it on, Ningxi admired it with satisfaction for a long time. Lu Tingxiao was wearing a shirt, vest, and jacket, while Xiao Baozi was wearing the same color overalls and a bow tie. When the two of them stood together, no matter how many times they looked at each other, they were still pleasing to the eye. Chapter 5:18. It was getting late. Ningxi finally came to her senses. Ah, Lu Tingxiao, are you going to be late for work? No, it's still early. Are you going to take Gongshangzi to see a house today? These are a few suitable locations that I've picked out for you as a reference, Lu Tingxiao said as he handed her a folder. So soon? Ningxi was surprised by the devil's efficiency. It didn't take long. Because her business must be the first priority, it was naturally fast. Thank you so much. Looking at the detailed analysis and comparison of each lot in the information Lu Tingxiao gave her, Ningxi suddenly felt much more at ease. Then she looked at Xiao Baozi and suddenly felt embarrassed. Well, I'm going to see a house today. What about Xiao Baozi? It's fine if it's something else, but he must be busy today. It's not good to take him with me. Hearing this, Xiao Baozi looked as if he was about to be abandoned. "I'll call Uncle Yuan," Lu Tingxiao said. Xiao Baozi stared at Papa and clutched Ningxi's clothes tighter. "No." Ningxi hesitated. She was reluctant to leave Xiao Baozi here alone, even if there was someone to take care of him. Lu Tingxiao saw her concern, so he put down his cell phone and said, "Or, I'll take him to the company and you can pick him up after you finish your work." Well, she was more relieved to let Xiao Baozi follow his father. Ningxi pondered for a moment, bent down and said softly to Xiao Baozi, "Xiao Bao, I'm really sorry. I'm really busy today. Do you want to wait for me here, or go to the company with Papa first?" He didn't want to choose either. He just wanted to be with Aunt Xiaoxi. He was not afraid of being tired, but he was afraid of being a burden to Aunt Xiaoxi. Afraid that Aunt Xiaoxi would be tired, Xiao Baozi hesitated for a long time. Finally, he reluctantly looked at Papa next to him, which meant that he chose to go to the company with Lu Tingxiao, because this could create more opportunities for Papa and Aunt Xiaoxi to get along. Although he didn't want to do this at all, he was an ally of Papa. If he wanted to be with Aunt Xiaoxi, he had to rely on Papa. Lu Tingxiao looked at his son's choice and revealed a satisfied expression. Sure enough, he was still his biological son. Of course, Ningxi didn't notice the exchange between the father and son. She hugged the little bun lovingly and said, "Baby, you're so obedient. Auntie will come to pick you up as soon as I'm done with my work." After comforting little bun, Ningxi and Lu Tingxiao split up. Lu Group Corporation Building. When Lu Tingxiao held little Baozi's hand and got out of the car, there was a commotion everywhere they went. Almost all eyes were on the little boy that Lu Tingxiao was holding. There was no need to think too much. Just by looking at this small face that was carved from the same mold, it was definitely the legendary little crown prince Ah. Especially today, Lu Tingxiao and Xiaobao were still wearing the parent-child clothes that Ningxi bought for them. When they stood together, they almost killed everyone's sight. Even the morning sun seemed to be favored and fell on the father and son. Otherwise, how could they have their own special effects? The little secretary at the front desk couldn't hold back her excitement. She excitedly sent a message in the company's group chat, giving an early warning. "Oh my God, big news! Boss Lu brought the little prince to the company. Little crown prince is so handsome, so cute, so cute." Chapter 519. As soon as this sentence came out, the company group chat exploded as if cold water had been poured into a pot of boiling oil. New messages came one after another, jumping around at high speed. "Little prince, I'm not educated. Don't lie to me. How could Boss Lu bring little prince to the company? Are you sure you're not mistaken? How do you know it's little prince? I've been in the company for 5 years, and I've never seen a single strand of little prince's hair, okay? There really is a little prince? I thought it was just a rumor. Even if there is, it can't really be little prince. Boss Lu is such a low-key person. How could he bring his son to the company?" The little secretary was naturally unconvinced and retorted, "It's little prince. He looks exactly the same as our Boss Lu. How could I be wrong? And they're wearing matching outfits. I've never seen Boss Lu wear such a bright color. Do you know what color Boss Lu is wearing today? Red. Red. He's even wearing this color to match his son. Most importantly, he's still super handsome. He looks even more handsome than usual." Hearing the little secretary's explanation, people started to believe it. "Please take a photo. Please take a photo. It's not nice of him to enjoy it alone." I was stunned at the time. How could I remember to take a photo? Boss Lu has already taken little prince upstairs in the elevator. You'll see for yourselves later. Because the little secretary had told them in advance, almost everyone temporarily put down their work and fixed their eyes on the elevator. After waiting anxiously, finally, there was a ding sound. The elevator door opened. Lu Tingxiao walked out of the elevator with a pink and jade-like little ball in his hand. Their boss had always worn black, but today, he was wearing red. Moreover, their boss was really holding a 5-year-old boy's hand. The little boy was wearing the same colored clothes, and his jade-like face was a mini version of Lu Tingxiao. Even the cool and aloof expression on his little face was the same as Lu Tingxiao's. After seeing the adult and child, all the employees were stunned. Finally, someone in the corner reacted and hurriedly greeted, "Good morning, Boss Lu. Good morning, young master." Then came the undulating greetings of "Good morning, President Lu," and "Good morning, young master." Although the scene of everyone standing up to pay their respects was quite spectacular, the 5-year-old little bun was very calm, and the expression on his face did not change at all. In fact, it was because the little fellow was still immersed in the disappointment of parting with Aunt Xiaoxi and didn't notice what was happening around her. As soon as the two of them entered the CEO's office, the discussion outside could no longer be suppressed. "My God, it's really the young master. Young master's genes are too good. I'm getting more and more curious about the young master's biological mother." Boss Lu is really wearing red. In the past, I always thought that black was the most suitable color for Boss Lu. Now it's proven that I'm still too inexperienced. Actually, what I'm most curious about is who bought these clothes for Boss Lu and young master. Who made them wear it? Oh right. Based on CEO Lu's personality, he would never buy it, much less wear clothes of this color and style. If it was second young master, that would be more like it. Do you even need to ask? Naturally, she's the future lady boss. Chapter 520. Ningxi pressed the doorbell of the hotel room. Almost as soon as he pressed the button, the door was pulled open. The young man stood nervously at the door, unable to hide his excitement. "Boss, you're here." After seeing Ningxi, Gong Shangze seemed to heave a sigh of relief in addition to his excitement. After all, Ningxi's appearance in Luoyang City was too sudden for him. He did not sleep well last night, afraid that it was just a dream. He woke up early in the morning, waiting for Ningxi to look for him. He was afraid that she would not come, afraid that he had done something wrong, afraid that she would regret and change her mind, afraid that he would fall into another despair. Luckily, she came. Ningxi looked at the neatly dressed Gong Shangze. "Are you ready? Shall we go now?" "Yes, let's go. Have you had breakfast?" "Yes, the hotel provides breakfast in the morning." "All right, then let's go. Let's look at the houses first. Once we've decided on the houses, we can go buy the things we need." Okay. When Ningxi took a closer look, she realized that in the information Lu Tingxiao had prepared for her, he had even planned out the order of the houses and the best transportation route. She was amazed, and at the same time, her heart was filled with warmth. In the morning, she brought Gong Shangze to look at several places. As expected of the devil's recommendation, every location was very suitable. Even the landlord was very polite. Finally, the two of them settled on a high-class office building in the south of the city. The area of the studio was not big, but it was enough. The decoration was simple, and the office supplies were ready-made. She could move in directly, which satisfied her needs very much. The best thing was that most of the surrounding companies were related to art, and there were also many fashion design companies. The atmosphere was very good. Ningxi discussed with Gong Shangze for a while and decided on this place. After signing the contract with the landlord, the two of them prepared to go shopping. "We'll mainly be shopping these 2 days, and then go to the talent market to recruit a few people." Ningxi was talking to Gong Shangze when a large group of young men and women walked towards them. Those people were dressed fashionably, and the man in the middle was surrounded by the crowd. He had a proud expression on his face. "Teacher Dai, you're really amazing." During this Luoyang City Fashion Week, all the domestic designers were in the limelight because of you. Even CL's chief designer, Mr. Smith, praised you. What is this? When I came back this time, half of the big names and movie queens in the entertainment industry were wearing clothes designed by Teacher Dai. I heard that Teacher Dai is preparing to register for the Golden Summit Award. This year's Golden Summit Award winner will definitely be Teacher Dai. Ningxi had only taken a casual glance and did not pay much attention. However, she discovered that after Gong Shangzi saw that group of people, his expression instantly changed. To be precise, it was when he saw the man in the middle of the group. Oh, I heard those people call the man in the middle as Teacher Dai. Could it be Shangzi? Do you know this person? Ningxi pretended to ask casually. Gong Shangzi clenched his fists and nodded with a cold expression. I do. Ningxi understood. Is he the scumbag teammate Dai Wei who stole your design manuscript?
Yes.
Gong Shangzi stared at the man in front of him until he brushed past those people. Chapter 521. Ningxi suddenly thought of something and asked curiously, Hey, Shangzi, you two were so close to each other just now. Dai Wei even glanced at us. Why didn't he recognize you? At this moment, the gloominess on Gong Shangzi's face had already faded away. When he heard Ningxi's question, he blushed and said, Actually, even though I'm a fashion designer, because I bury myself in drawing every day, Dai Wei handles all the social matters, so I don't really care about how I dress. So, even if I hadn't fallen to the point of becoming a beggar, my image wasn't much better. Pfft, no wonder. You're really a mudslide in the design circle. Ningxi laughed. As a designer, which one of them doesn't care about their image? This guy had actually turned himself into a beggar. Ningxi coughed lightly and collected her thoughts. She looked at the little fresh meat next to her and said, But don't do this again. A good appearance is good for your work, understand? Most importantly, with such a good foundation, you're a living signboard. You're wasting it. Look at Dai Wei. He's so well-dressed, with makeup thicker than a woman's, and he's wearing contact lenses. The waxes on his hair are so shiny, but he's not even half as handsome as you, okay? Gong Shangzi was embarrassed by her words. Boss, you're exaggerating. Ningxi raised her eyebrows. I'm not. If you don't believe me, you'll believe me when you have a bunch of crazy female fans. Haha, this was a face that could make the devil jealous. She wasn't exaggerating at all, okay? If it weren't for his design skills, she would have dragged him into the entertainment industry. Oh, what's the Golden Summit Award? Is it very good? Ningxi asked curiously. Yes, it's the most authoritative fashion design award in the country. There's still half a month before the registration. Time is tight, but boss, I want to try. Gong Shangzi pleaded with determination. Are you going to participate? Of course. If you need any help, I'll fully support you. Ningxi patted Gong Shangzi's shoulder. Thank you, boss. That's enough for me. In the past, he was only interested in design as a hobby, but this time, he treated it as a career, a belief, and a goal. Most importantly, he wanted to prove to the person in front of him that she had not misjudged him. Lu Group, CEO's office. Ever since Little Bun came in, he had been hugging a pair of binoculars and had never left the windowsill. Even his lunch was eaten on the windowsill. He was like a bright red night-gazing stone. When Lu Tingxiao raised his head from the pile of documents, he noticed that his son was still by the window, so he unhappily said, Xiaobao, go to the lounge and take a nap. Little Steamed Bun lay there unmoving. He wasn't going. Lu Tingxiao took a look at his son. Your Aunt Xiaoxi rested here a few days ago. When little Baozi heard this, he immediately jumped off the windowsill and ran to the lounge. After coaxing his son to sleep for a while, Lu Tingxiao breathed a sigh of relief and continued to work. However, after a while, the little guy woke up and changed his method of tossing and turning. Clearly, just lying on the windowsill and looking out was no longer enough for him. Little Bun took out his writing board and began to write. Chapter 522. After little Baozi finished writing quickly, she ran over to show Papa. Why hasn't Aunt Xiaoxi come to pick me up yet? Lu Tingxiao glanced at the writing board. She's busy. Little Bun. Is Aunt Xiaoxi abandoning me again? Lu Tingxiao. You're thinking too much. Little Bun. Then why hasn't she come to pick me up yet? Lu Tingxiao. Because I'm not done yet. Little Bun. When will Aunt Xiaoxi be done with her work? Lu Tingxiao. I don't know. You can text her and ask her. Little Bun. No. It would disturb Aunt Xiaoxi. Does Aunt Xiaoxi really like me? The corners of Lu Tingxiao's mouth twitched as he lifted his head helplessly from his pile of work. You're worried about disturbing Aunt Xiaoxi, but you're not worried about disturbing your biological father, are you? The restless Little Bun naturally wasn't worried that he would disturb his father, and continued to ask, why Little Bun? Will Aunt Xiaoxi suddenly dislike me? Little Bun. Aunt Xiaoxi hasn't come to pick me up yet. Could it be that she has fallen in love with another kid? Little Bun. Will Aunt Xiaoxi like me forever? Little Bun. Am I Aunt Xiaoxi's favorite baby? Lu Tingxiao. Honey, why aren't you back yet? For the first time in his life, Lu Tingxiao felt that taking care of a child was very difficult. At this moment, outside the president's office, suddenly, an incomparably excited voice came from the quiet staff area. Yo, my dearest darlings, I'm back. At the elevator door, it was almost winter, but Lu Jingli was wearing a short-sleeved flowery shirt, a grass skirt around his waist, and flip-flops on his feet. His hair was messy from the sea breeze, which was extremely eye-catching. However, even though he was dressed like shit, he was still so handsome that all the female employees screamed in excitement. Second young master. Second young master is back. Second young master, you're back. Didn't you say you were going to take 3 months off? Lu Jingli confidently stroked the messy hair on his head. Ha 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 ha, of course it's because I miss you guys. Second young master, we miss you too. Second young master, you look so handsome dressed like this. So handsome, so handsome, so handsome. Second young master, can we take a photo? What day is today? I'm so lucky. Not only did I see the little crown prince, even the second young master who had been on vacation for a long time had returned. Haha, do whatever you want. Oh right, babies, I've brought you a present. Everyone has a share, Lu Jingli said as he clapped his hands proudly. Behind him, a few subordinates carried a few large boxes and walked in. Everyone took a closer look and saw that the boxes were actually filled with large coconuts. Lu Jingli shook his legs and said proudly, ha ha ha, these were all shaken down from the trees by me. My head was almost smashed open. Second young master, you're so considerate. What a special gift. I like it so much. Thank you, second young master. Second young master, can you sign this coconut for me? Me too. Me too. Can you just sign it on me? Looking at the excited female employees flocking to him, the male employees' expressions were all tragic. Sigh, as long as he was handsome, even if he dressed like a fool, he could still win the hearts of a large number of beauties with just a coconut. Just as they were thinking about this, they saw a few of their male colleagues actually carrying coconuts with red faces and asking for autographs. Chapter 523. After contacting with the employees, Lu Jingli pushed open the door of his brother's office. Brother, I'm back. One day apart feels like 3 years, not to mention that so many years have passed. Do you miss me so much, The next second, after seeing his brother sitting at the desk, Lu Jingli was stunned for a second. Then he covered his eyes and let out an unbelievable wail. Oh, holy shit 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 shit. What did I see? What was his brother wearing? What was it? He thought it was a miracle that he wore royal blue last time. Today he saw his brother wearing red. 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 He could swear that his brother had never worn this color in his life. Needless to ask, he knew where this aesthetic came from. Just after the shock, he saw Xiao Bao, who was lying on the windowsill in the same color. What a strike! Shit. Can you still do it? Can you still do it? I've just come back and you've already abused me like this. You, prepare a plane for me. I want to go back to my lonely little island in the northern hemisphere. After finally calming down, Lu Jingli decisively began to gossip. He leaned over and touched his brother's clothes. My sister-in-law gave it to you? Looks like the two of you have developed quite well while I was away. By the way, I heard that Xiaobao baby spoke, so I flew back as soon as possible. Can Xiaobao really speak? After that, without waiting for his brother to answer, he flew directly to Xiao Bao and said flatteringly, "Baby, call me second uncle. Hurry up for you to call me second uncle. I even left the hot girls behind." Xiao Bao looked at Lu Jingli as if looking at an idiot, lowered his head, and wrote a few words. Lu Jingli leaned over and saw the words written on the writing board. "Am I Aunt Xiaoxi's favorite baby?" Huh? Lu Jingli was confused by this sentence. Because he had a sweet tongue, he subconsciously replied, "Do you need to ask?" "Of course you are." Xiao Bao's eyes lit up and he continued to write. "Then why hasn't Aunt Xiaoxi come to pick me up yet?" Lu Tingxiao, who was sitting at the desk, took a look at his brother and son and explained the situation to Lu Jingli. "Xiaobao will live with Ningxi for a while, but Ningxi is busy today, so I'll take care of him for a while." Lu Jingli understood and replied, "Xiaobao, don't worry. Your Aunt Xiaoxi must have been working non-stop to pick you up as soon as possible." Little Bun. "Is work more important or am I more important?" Lu Jingli. Of course you're more important." Little Bun. "Then why hasn't Aunt Xiaoxi come to pick me up yet?" Lu Jingli. Something didn't seem right. Why did they circle back? Lu Tingxiao couldn't help but sigh in relief when he saw Xiao Bao clinging on to Lu Jingli. He could finally focus on his work. After a while, Lu Jingli, who was chased by Xiao Bao with a writing board, covered his head and fled like a rat. He let out a shrill wail. "Ow! Xiao Bao, please spare me. Stop asking." Chapter 524. At the same time, Ning Shi, who was shopping with Gong Shangza, suddenly sneezed several times. Well, who was thinking of her? Even though everything went smoothly today, it was already evening when they finally finished their work. Gong Shangza took a few bags from Ning Shi. "Boss, go back and rest. I'll do the rest myself." Ning Shi looked at the time on her cell phone. She was afraid that little Bun would be anxious, so she nodded. "Remember to call me if you need anything. Don't force yourself, okay? I know. Then I'm leaving. Be careful on the road." Ning Shi waved her hand and reminded him worriedly. "Oh, by the way, remember to lock the door and check the windows at night." Gong Shangza didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He felt that Ning Shi was taking care of him like a girl. After saying goodbye to Gong Shangza, Ning Shi went directly to Lu Enterprises to pick up Little Bun. Thinking that she would see Little Bun soon, Ning Shi was in a good mood and even the tiredness of the day disappeared. In contrast to Ning Shi's good mood at the moment, in the president's office, Lu Tingxiao and Lu Jingli were about to have a nervous breakdown. Lu Jingli was lying on the sofa like a dead fish, and next to him, Little Bun was resolutely holding up a sign to force him to answer a question. "Oh my God. I suddenly feel that it's good that Little Bun can't speak." He had already tortured them badly without speaking. What would happen if he spoke? Lu Tingxiao pinched between his eyebrows. He was also exhausted, but he couldn't hit or scold her, not even say a harsh word. Otherwise, his wife would be the first to get mad. Fortunately, Lu Jingli came back early today. Otherwise, he really couldn't deal with it alone. Lu Jingli took out a mirror out of nowhere and said to Xiaobao solemnly, "Baby, don't ask me anymore. I'll give you a mirror. Yes, it's this one. Let me tell you, this is a magic mirror. Ask it if Aunt Xiaoxi really likes you. Don't ask me anymore, please." Little Bun glanced at the mirror in Lu Jingli's hand, threw it away mercilessly, and continued to hold up the sign. "Why hasn't Aunt Xiaoxi come to pick me up yet?" Lu Jingli was about to cry. He covered his ears, no, his eyes and said, "Ara, baby, go to the window again and take a look. Maybe she's already here." Little Bun blinked and hesitated for a moment. She put down the writing board and ran to the window to take a look. Lu Jingli stole a glance at the little fellow's back and prepared to take the opportunity to sneak away. However, at this moment, he saw Xiao Bao suddenly throw away the binoculars and writing board in his hands and run out of the door like a little rocket. Lu Jingli raised his eyebrows and walked towards the direction of the windowsill. He looked downstairs and sure enough, he vaguely saw a woman's figure. "Sob, sob, sob. My dear sister-in-law, you're finally here." Outside the CEO's office, the busy employees saw the door of the CEO's office suddenly being pushed open from the inside. Immediately, they saw their adorable little prince dashing out with his short legs, running straight in the direction of the elevator. Alas, the crown prince had come out. Many of the employees who came late in the morning and didn't get to see the little prince with their own eyes now had their eyes wide open. They looked like they were still working hard, but in fact, all their attention was on the little cuddly ball. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.